Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the Iran USA conflict.
It's
Intro
great to
music.
have you guys back, and nice that you guys can listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
Well, as many of you know, I think the whole world knows, recently.
Just to make it clear for everyone, this was recorded in March 2026 before the war ended. Alright, let's get back to the video now.
There has been a war breaking out between the United States and Iran. These tensions have been starting, if I'm correct, since November 2025. And this was kind of a link to the war between Israel and Palestine, where Iran joined the war on Israel's on not 100% sure, but on one of their sides, and the U.S. helped Israel and backed them up, and a new conflict got created between the two.
Yeah, the US and Israel have been allies for a while now, so it's kind of a joint attack against Iran between the US and Israel. So, although the headlines might say it's just US and Iran, Israel still plays a big role.
I didn't know that it had to do with Palestine. I thought it was just our French teacher was talking about how Trump was giving hope, like telling the Iranians to revolt or something, and that's why there was a war. So I had no idea it had anything to do with Palestine. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember correctly last year, I think it was around June, uh, Iran joined the Israel-Palestine war, and at the time, because there was missiles going from Tel Aviv to Iran, and at the time the US was already supporting Israel, and this just created a tension. This new conflict isn't directly linked to the conflict between Israel and Palestine, but this definitely started with that, and the first tensions were definitely created because of that incident.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, just like I know what happened back in the 2000s with the US's past in the Middle East. They have been attacking their nuclear sites and stuff and want to stop Iran from getting too much nuclear power, and they just overall want to kind of remove their regime that's been corrupt and unfair for a lot of years. So there's a lot of debate about whether how ethical this is exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of Americans are worried that it's the same thing between USA Iraq that happened in the 2000s. I want to say around 2010, late 2007. I'm not sure. I think it was a little bit earlier. I think it was around 2005. I'll check it right now. Oh, that would be nice. Thank you. So yeah, they're worried that it's gonna be another unnecessary war. USA has a very good streak with unnecessary wars. First in Vietnam, Iraq, Sudan, a lot of places, and now Iran. And yeah, Americans are just sick of
and recently Venezuela as well. It's not really a war, but what they did there as well. All right, and to back up your fact, there were tensions all the way back in the Gulf War. That was between 1990 and 1991 between Iraq and US, and then further also between 2003 and 2011 with the Iraq war / occupation. So, yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, it's actually not been the first time that the US and Iran have been enemies. Back in the Iranian Revolution of 1979, the US lost a key ally when Iran became an Islamic republic. Remember, I think a very good movie explaining this was Persepolis. I think we've been talking about it in the first episode as well, which kind of backs the whole Iranian revolution up. And and remember you had some information to talk about that. Will you enlighten us, please? Me? Yeah. Oh yes, of course. So like you said, the war, the tensions, they date all the way back to 1979 during the Iranian Revolution. And yes, there were just a lot of issues going on in the Middle East. There were sanctions, there were
proxy wars. There was a nuclear program, debates on if these Islamic countries that are not allies of the US, do they have nuclear weapons or not? Yes. Just the US was very worried. But linking back to Persepolis, last episode, not last episode, I think it was the first episode, yes. I was talking about that one band with the burqas and everything. So within Iran, there were basically the same regime that was going on in Afghanistan, the same kind of emotional state for citizens. Yeah, the same kind of strict everyday life, and very sad, very very authoritarian. So USA had to swoop in and try to be saviors, and that's how we got this war.
Very interesting. Well, I would like to continue on Iran's nuclear program, and why is it such a big deal, and how is it important towards the US? How can it be a threat, or how can it be useful? Arno? I think initially we know that I guess Iran and the US are enemies, and the US is allies with Israel. So already Iran just having those nuclear weapons poses a big threat to them in that way. And on the other hand, overall, they just want to minimize Iran's influence over that area. And so attacking their the hard power that they do have is a main way they want to do that. So I think that's the biggest reason they're doing that. That's interesting. Yeah. Kind of a question towards, do you think nuclear weapons nowadays are should be allowed? Do you think it would be better if countries did not have them, or does it give kind of a sense of dominance and a sense of threat that countries can't start a war immediately? What is your opinions about this? I think about it in a utopian world, and ethically, obviously countries shouldn't have nuclear weapons, because the only reason you're ever going to use it is to destroy another part of a different country. So that should obviously never be used. But in a realistic world, anybody anybody, a lot of people, a lot of powerful countries will always have access to nuclear weapons. There's not really you can't really convince some of these countries to not use them. So in that sense, there's a level one country shouldn't be able to decide whether another country is allowed to have nuclear weapons while they also do. So, when you think about it ethically, from that perspective, it's different than when you think about it realistically, and which countries should or shouldn't have nuclear power.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
To add on to what Arno was saying, well, actually, to contradict what Arno was saying, I think, that the idea of any country having a nuclear power should not, a nuclear should not even be a thing at all. I think it's completely disgusting. It's just weird. I mean, I understand why it's a good thing, quote unquote, because since one country has a nuclear power and its enemies also has a nuclear weapon, then none of them would actually threaten to bomb one another because of what could they both use the nuclear weapon. I think that any chance or just the tension that comes with any country having a nuclear weapon is not okay, because poor civilians like us, we have nothing to do with this. And some of the leaders are a little bit unhinged, and we don't know what they might do with it. Most of these wars have nothing to do with the civilians, and mostly to do with money and oil and stuff, and it's nothing, so it's our lives at risk. It's just not fair. It's not okay.
So guys, how did the conflict actually start? What happened that it led into there being direct attacks?
Oh, I know this. I know the answer to this. So what happened was that at the very start, a little backstory is that the US was encouraging Iranian citizens to go out and break whatever are they called? I forgot what they're called, but they were encouraging them to break the laws and be free and stop wearing the burqas and just be themselves. And so people were going out on the streets and they were not wearing their hijabs, they were not wearing any of those. They were listening to music, dancing, drinking, going out to bars, just being, especially the young people, yeah, just being young and free. And a lot of the people that were going out to protest were getting executed and shot in the middle of the streets by the Iranian regime officers. Thank you. And yes, so they were doing all this, killing these people to set an example. And then the Iranian people were getting upset because they felt like the USA had pushed them to do this and were not going to back them up because they hadn't done anything after, like encouraging them to protest. So then the US bombed a restaurant full of Iranian leaders because, so there was the president, his name is Masoud, I can't pronounce Masoud, well, we'll put it up somewhere, his name. And so they bombed the restaurant where him and all his successors, all the people that were supposed to like go after him, like if he died, these people were gonna take over, killed them all, and that's how the war started, for real. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I heard as well that after the bombing, wait, cut this out. I low-key don't know. I had something in my head and it wasn't functioning.
You could say how they were bombing like Abu Dhabi, UAE, Saudi Arabia.
Oh yeah. Why did they do this again?
They were shooting at US military bases.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Let me read it. Okay, I also heard that afterwards Iran to kind of counterattack. They attacked a lot of military, like US military bases around the Middle East. For example, the one in also, I think there was one in Dubai and a lot in Lebanon, I heard as well.
They have a lot. Oh yeah, Lebanon as well.
And I remember there was days of distress, not only in the US military bases, but around like everyone that just lives there, and people that were on vacation in Dubai, they were stuck there, they had to take shelter, and they didn't really see this coming because I remember this was in like the span of, I think, a couple of days that this all of, and nobody really saw this coming. Like this attack, I mean, they saw something coming, but this quickly, I don't think people saw it coming.
Yeah.
And most of like the civilian casualties were happening because so when Iran was sending missiles to the US bases around in neighboring countries, the US bases would like counter-strike the missiles, and then debris from the missiles that would send would fall into civilian neighborhoods and stuff like that. So especially if you're a lot on French TikTok, you see that a lot of the like influencers and stuff, they were posting a lot about how they're super scared because they were getting bombing everywhere. So yeah, this is really touching like regular people, maybe people that you know personally. You can see how this war is really affecting a lot. And in fact, have you guys noticed that lately gas prices have been going up?
Wow, yeah. I have noticed it because I go to school by car, as I live like quite far from school, and often I like fill the gas because I go with someone older, and I've seen like every week the prices going up. I think before the war started, the prices were at like €1.60 or like €1.50 a liter. And like in the span of a couple of weeks, it went all the way up to €2, like 10 or something. And I think it's been like better now, but this mostly happened because they cut off all access for like oil and like gasoline to be able to transport to other parts of the world where it was very difficult to get to it, and prices increased. It took a lot more money and a lot more time to get the kind of the diesel and to the gas station. I think this is globally an issue right now.
Do you have something to say, Arno?
All right. Well, good. All right.
Yep. What?
All right. 3, 2, 1. So yeah, but I don't think this is the only thing how this conflict has been affecting the rest of the world. I think there's many more other things, especially probably around countries that are at war right now, because there's also a lot of bombing in Lebanon. I'm not sure if it's directly linked to that conflict, but in the areas around Iran, kind of inflation has increased a lot, and it's difficult to get to fresh food as there's fertilizer disruption going on. It's just very difficult to be able to live how they used to live. Arno, do you have anything to add on to that? No?
Yo, okay.
All right.
Hold on. Let's just start asking questions again because I look.
Wait, I have something to add if he has nothing to say.
Go ahead.
Yes.
All right. Yes, so inflation a lot in countries, that is true. Another thing that's really interesting, another thing that has been brought to my attention about this war is that there's a college professor. His name is Professor Jiang, and he was on the French news a couple weeks ago, I think. He's I forgot. I think he's a economics teacher or something, and he has a YouTube channel that's called Predictive History, where basically he predicts history. It's insane. He uses economics, he uses history trends and stuff like that to predict what's going to happen. And he predicted World War III. He predicted that China and Russia were going to enter the Iran-USA war. And he basically explained what the whole motive behind the war was, like the real motive that nobody's telling you or whatever like that. And he was saying that, like Remy was saying, the transport of the oil, there's the Gulf of Qatar, UAE, all of that.
Wait, I'll search it up. Continue.
It's called something Hormuz, something like that. And that's where all like the oil is basically getting transported from. They knew from what he's saying and from other online sources, basically the US knew that if they like started a war with Iran, that strait was gonna get like cut off and no oil was gonna get transported. And this is a problem because China, which we know is one of the US's biggest like enemies, they are one of the biggest oil consumers. And yes, they make oil, but they are not like self-sufficient. They can't depend on the oil that they make, and they are the biggest like buyers of oil from Iran and from countries around that strait. So starting war with Iran, first of all, would mean no more oil for China, and cutting off the strait would mean almost every country is dependent of the USA. And that's why they also went for Venezuela, because Venezuela has a lot of oil, so makes them the most important country again. And that's basically all he was saying. And yeah, he's a very interesting guy, so if you're done watching this podcast, you should go check his channel out.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. And also, I'm not 100% sure if this is the entire correct name, but it's called the Persian Gulf. And yeah, there's a lot of transport going around there from the backside of the Middle East. They go around and then they go through Egypt, through the, I think it was the...
Oh, you know the...
No. You're it up.
All right, fine. Let's leave it like this.
All right.
But I have something else, kind of similar to add on to Anne's point. But this, like, modern warfare is kind of different than this conflict. This conflict has been using a lot of drones. I mean, these drones are also been used in the Ukraine and Russian war. And they basically have a chip in them installed where they know where to fly to. And whenever they land on a certain place, plane, or a person, these drones kind of explode and there's just a bomb going on, which is very powerful and which can, I think, it can completely destroy a whole building, like killing people. Are you guys more scared then? Are you guys like kind of scared that maybe World War III will like kind of break out? Or do you think this will probably not happen where you live right now? Or yeah.
I think the less significant your country is, the less scared you should be to actually like be hurt anyway. So despite, I'm Belgian, so despite the fact that Belgium is pretty somewhat insignificant, um, the fact that we're even like situated in the middle of Europe is already like scary enough. Like the Europe is pretty well known, I'd say, for just like not doing much in terms of war. Like we always like send supplies and stuff, but we don't meddle with stuff, which I think is pretty good for my safety at least. But still, with our like with how strong like ties we have with other countries and the enemies we've made, I feel like at any time anything could happen, and I think that's pretty scary, especially with in the U.S. as well. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Anne?
I live in France, and the French president, I think a couple weeks ago, or like a week ago, yeah, he went on TV basically trying to reassure all French citizens that we will not be going to war. So I don't know, I kind of trust him, young, and he's really cool. So I trust him that we should be fine. And in any worst case scenario, I think I'll just go back to my home country, and then I think I'll be fine. But also like I've kind of come to terms with the whole like war thing. I think with the way that like with the way that the world is going so far, I think it's kind of inevitable and it's gonna happen.
Going off Anne's point here, Remy, I have a question for you, and honestly, for both of you. Um, if war were to break out, or if your country gets involved in war, would you fight for your country, or would you leave?
Well, Arno, it's a very interesting question. But personally, I think the risk is a little too big. Also, I feel like a lot of valuable time, years that I lose, kind of like I will lose like these student years. I will lose the years that I'll make so many friends that I'll keep for life. Obviously, in military, I'll probably would make learn people, but also it's important because I might lose my education, the possibility to go to university, and honestly, if I would be a part of maybe a more interesting country. I'm not saying Belgium is not interesting, but like it's not the most relevant country out there. That I would maybe fight for it, but I would highly doubt that I actually would. Because
That's a much different answer that I would have expected. You mentioned losing your like youthful years or whatever that you want to keep, and not wanting to fight for a country like Belgium, but I feel like overall, just the concept of fighting for your country, giving your life seems so much smaller than it actually is. Like for me, at least, I have no motivation to fight for my country because I'm giving up my life for what? Like,
mm-hmm. That's kind of what
That's
I
a really
tried to say.
interesting edge.
It's kind of it's maybe the way I worded it, but I completely agree with you. Also, I personally think I wouldn't be like a very good fighter as well. And also, I think I don't want to like kind of lose my life this early because you never know what could happen to you. These conflicts, the amount of technology they have, you can see the numbers of people that died. Obviously, Belgium is not really part of much right now, but if the World War III would break out, I feel like, I would be a little like scared to die, I don't know.
I mean, I've seen graphics recently of the percentage of people that would actually go out and fight for their country. And I saw that, I remember I seen this map in Europe, and like the Eastern countries were higher than European countries. And like Belgium was definitely like one of the lowest ones. And I think that's like in direct correlation with both like the amount of patriotism, which I feel like is compared to certain other countries lower in Belgium, compared to say like a USA or France. But also just I feel like if I were to go fight in a war, a somewhat safer position, I could do, something that wouldn't require you to be on the front lines per se. But even then, it's like even then morally it's still questionable. You're contributing to the death of people's lives for what?
Yeah. And what was your kind of view on this as a woman?
Yeah.
Um, Actually, while you guys were talking, I was searching up if you get like called in for war in the countries that I'm a citizen of as a woman. I know you don't, so that's great. But I wanted to talk about what Arno was saying about like maybe having a job that has to do with the military but not on the front lines. And I just like he said, um, I don't think even that would be okay. That wouldn't be okay either because like ethically you're still contributing to people losing their lives. You're still a part of the war. You're still like adding on to that and you're not fighting it. And also, but yeah, overall, it's like I don't think war is necessary. I don't think I'd ever, even if I was a guy, I don't think I'd ever like agree to join or to fight in a war because most of these wars are wars that have nothing to do with the citizens and more to do with money and oil and the leaders themselves. So
I actually found some interesting info in Belgium. There's a chance that they might like because there used to be a 1 year military
Yeah, mandatory.
mandatory
Like
year,
a mandatory year, like in Korea.
and there's a chance that they might pull it back if like circumstances gets too like bad. If you like are like between this age and this age and you have no health concerns or anything. But what's also interesting, I've heard that in Germany they are
Yeah.
deciding that if there's not enough people, they are gonna take like all the people between I think it was 18 and like 25 years old, and they're gonna make like a big kind of lottery system, and they're gonna take out
Yeah.
like 2,000 names or like 3,000, I think even more, like 15,000 names out of like these millions of people, and there's a chance you get like kind of called out for to do like 1 year of mandatory military like things.
Service.
Yeah, and then you would be like the system to fight for war if you did that year.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty concerning. Like, there's more and more European countries that are gearing up for war. Like you said, like Germany has been the most proactive, and they've been like creating reserves and stuff, and overall just increased military spending. But I've heard about the UK and France doing similar things, and it's honestly terrifying.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's kind of scary.
it's really something
But
to think
I
about.
would let's go a bit back more in detail about the Iran war because I think we've been drifting off a little bit. But like, what are the human consequences of this like conflict? Like, how do the citizens of both Iran, not as much of U.S. as about the U.S. Wow, and just people in general in the Middle East, like get affected of this conflict?
I mean, I think the most obvious one is always just the people who are caught in the crossfire of the war, and I find it sometimes really confusing. And sometimes you see news of specific buildings being bombed and stuff, and you think, are these literally like I saw this video of an Iranian school, one of the only schools that allow girls to get an education at, was bombed, and even if that's like an accident or something, there's just like no way of justifying that, and I find that very confusing as to why that happens. And then like even like after you look at the amount of people that die, the amount of civilians that die, and even the amount of soldiers that die during these wars, there's also the economic consequences that come with these, and that is, the inflation and all the jobs and just overall like a country going to ruins, and that affects its entire population.
And how about you?
What was the question?
Like, what are the human consequences? Like the consequences of the civilians? Like, how are they affected in this conflict? The people from Iran and like the people just generally in the Middle East.
I think the most obvious answer, like, yeah, Arno said a lot of stuff, but he missed the most obvious answer is that people lose people that they love, people that they like care about and stuff, and that like a lot of people's lives are lost very early, especially people with a lot of potential, with a lot of hopes and dreams and admirations, ambitions and whatnot. And then that all ties back to like what's the reason for war, like what do people gain from war? And I think that to answer that question is that it all has to do with money. Arno was talking about everything gets more expensive, inflation, and jobs, but during war, jobs are created and money is made for governments. And a lot of countries, if you look at I think the only country that has paid off all their debts is Nigeria. And every other country is in huge debt, and they're receiving a lot of pressure from their citizens to make their lives better, but making people's lives better costs money. So, making your citizens happy, maybe that means that you have to kill citizens from other countries, innocent people, but that's the cost to whatever leaders want.
Yeah. All right. I say we kind of go to the final question here. I mean, I have two of them, but we'll quickly go over both of them. What would you guys do if you were in Iran? Like, what if you were stuck there as like a teenager now, or you can see yourself as maybe someone more grown up, more independent? Would you help fight for the country? Would you fled the country, or would you try to live there and kind of be able to have your old life in your same country?
I think personally, depending on the level of attachment you have to the place, it obviously depends. But like if I think about it, if like Belgium was attacked, I would definitely flee. Like not obviously not permanently, but I would definitely go somewhere else to just escape the danger. Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I think that'd be my first reaction is to go away.
How about you, Anne?
I don't know. Flee, maybe, but like flee to where really? Like what? Maybe flee to like dream place. Like I don't know, somewhere, some island in an ocean or something. That would be nice. But I think I'd have like a fear of leaving everything behind. You like kind of build stuff up, and you like build your memories and stuff. So I think I'd be too to my past, maybe to let that go and run away.
Well, that's interesting. Well, personally, I think my first response would be trying to escape the country, flee the country, but I don't think that's as easy as like it seems. And also, like Arna said, if you have a big attachment to the country, I might try help to fight, but in my case, I would highly doubt I would. And yeah, in general, it really depends on the situation, but I feel like I would, as a first response, try to flee the country.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at this question in the lens of if my country was attacked, what would I do? But some of these Iranian people are different, since a lot of the Iranian citizens oppose their current government, and some of them welcome the U.S. in and their efforts in the war. So depending on your view on war itself as an Iranian person, that can like affect what you do as well.
All right, I have one final question. This is for the viewers as well. So if you have a response, please answer in the comments. But how long do you think this conflict will last? Do you think it'll last as long as Ukrainian Russian war, or do you think it will be resolved in a couple of months?
I think this specific conflict is not going to last as long as the Ukrainian-Russian war. I think that especially like Trump's whole like what kind of is I think he wants to be really swift about this war. Either he wants to just like do what he like. I'm not 100% sure what he wants to do exactly, but he doesn't necessarily want to like go into the country. So he's already kind of achieved like the fact that he wants to take out the government. So now, as long as Iran can kind of get back on their feet with like new leadership or something, the conflict will be somewhat resolved. Although there will definitely still be like tensions between these countries, and definitely between like Israel and Iran. That will keep going for a little while, I think.
And
I don't know about the war itself. I do know that like Arno said, the tensions between the countries, or the tensions in the Middle East period, I think that would always forever be an ongoing thing. It's been a historical trend. There's always something on in the Middle East. I don't think it's gonna end anytime soon. I hope for the American people, for the Iranians, and honestly for the rest of the world, that this specific war resolves itself very fast, because it's the potential damage that could come from it is huge, and it's definitely not underminable. So I hope it goes by really fast.
Yeah, same here. I hope just it gets resolved as quick as possible, but I have a feeling this could last a lot longer than we expect, but it's all up to what will happen and how like this conflict will grow. But yeah, I think that wraps up this episode. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you will come back for the next episode in a couple of
Yes.
weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.